I was scrambling around this morning doing stuff, and there you go. Came on late. It's not much though. It's just a minute. I had to find what I was going to wear today because, as promised, I decided to get outfitted in my baseball gear because baseball season is upon us, people. It's gonna be awesome. There will be sports again, at least in some capacity, right? I gotta get my hat straight. What's up with that? It's like all messed up. There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Devo Live. I did not get a chance to fix the date on my Facebook feed, so it still says Daily Devo Live, July 9th. I'm just having one of those weeks. I think, man, I got to get this. Let me just get this straightened out here. We can make sure we're all not messed up. There we go. Everything is backwards when I'm looking at it. So the way that I move my head, so y'all are seeing the mirror image, I guess, of what I'm looking at. So it's good to see everybody. Good to be here today. Good to be here on a Wednesday. It is Wednesday. Let's play two. Yep. Man, oh man. I lived in Chicago for almost 4 years. I go to Chicago probably at least twice a year to visit, and now probably more than that because my kid lives there. My kid and my daughter-in-law. My son's going to law school at DePaul University School of Law, and he's got 2 more years there. So I'm sure that we'll be headed back to Chicago on many occasions. This past summer, I think it was early in the summer, maybe we were able to go and see a Cubs game. I have never physically seen the Cubs win. They have always lost every game I've ever gone to see the Cubs play. And when we lived in Chicago, I got a chance to go see them, quite a few times. And this was back in the day when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, that whole season, and surrounding all that, so those guys have now been outed as using steroids and doing all kinds of stuff. But at any rate, back then, we were just playing. It was just pure fun. And I was there the year of the famous Bartman Ball incident. The Cubs were cursed for years and years and years. I mean, they got close so many times to getting to the World Series, to go to the World Series and then lose. They've always been called the lovable losers, right? Because they're one of the few baseball teams that sells out. At least that's the way it used to be. They would sell out every game at historic Wrigley Field, which is one of the most amazing places to go and see a baseball game. Right in the middle of Chicago, it's you don't go there by car. It's not like the new Comiskey Park on the south side with Chicago White Sox where you can drive. They got a nice parking lot and all that happy jazz. Nope, you got to ride the train and get off at Addison. When you get off at the Addison stop, you walk right downstairs and you are right at Wrigley Field. It's an amazing place to go watch baseball. Even if you don't like baseball, it's an amazing place to just go and visit and take in the atmosphere, the fun, the food, the hot dogs. There's nothing like a Chicago dog, man. I got to tell you, Chicago dog, if you can do it right. Back then, when I went, they would have a hot dog bar. Like that was one of the areas where we were sitting. There was a hot dog bar and you could go set it up, man. Chicago style is just like you wanted it. Of course, all those days are gone. I'm sure there's nobody's going to be doing buffets and hot dog bars and things like that for some time. But at any rate, yeah, man, nothing like getting an old style beer, which is like the worst beer ever. So get an old style and a Chicago dog, and you go over by there to Wrigley Field, and you'll watch a game. Then so yeah, that's what you'll do. So that was kind of a mixture of Minnesota and Chicago. Chicago, right? They say everything is like an there. So anyway, I became a Cubs fan when I was living in Chicago. I went there to go to seminary. I went to seminary at McCormick Theological Seminary, which is located on in the south. I say south side. It's not really. It's in Hyde Park, which is like a really nice neighborhood near the University of Chicago. It's where the Obamas lived. I don't think they live there anymore. They might still have their house there, but the Obamas lived there. Lots of highfalutin people lived in the Hyde Park area. And the University of Chicago's there. There's the Chicago, the Catholic Divinity School. There's a Methodist Divinity School. There's, of course, the Lutheran. And so there's all these divinity schools all surrounding the University of Chicago. Anyway, that's where I went to seminary. We lived in downtown. So we lived on the South Loop. For those of you who might be familiar with Chicago, we lived down on the South Loops, right down by the Chicago River, in a wonderful building called River City. We lived there for about a year and a half. And then we moved up to the just on the North Loop side, right by what's called Second City, the Second City Theater, like on Wells. And so, I mean, we had a good time while we were there. It was wonderful to live in a city like that, and just to live downtown and to be able to take in all that. I didn't drive a whole lot. We rode the train pretty much everywhere. Did a lot of cool stuff, and sadly became a Cubs fan in the midst of it until 2016. That the Cubs were able to finally break the curse and win a World Series, and so. This year, well, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of hope. I just don't. But at any rate, there you go. So there's my ode to Chicago and to the Cubbies. So it's good to see everybody today. As promised, I'm wearing my baseball gear. We're going to do a little baseball movie trivia here. I'll probably do some tomorrow. Who knows what'll happen. Basketball is starting up, so I'm going to do some basketball trivia. So I'll be wearing some basketball gear. I've got a diverse set of sports affiliations. So it's just kind of one of those things, man. I kind of picked them up along the way. So I grew up in Colorado. I was born in Colorado Springs. I grew up in Colorado. I lived in Denver, lived in Longmont, which is just outside of Fort Collins, lived in Colorado Springs. So I grew up there. I love Colorado. It's a wonderful state. I love going back and being able to visit. In fact, I'm trying to work out a plan to go back in August to take in some cool mountain air. But I became a Denver Broncos fan by birth, man. That's just kind of how it happened when I was a little kid. I grew up loving the Denver Broncos and, of course, have been a Broncos fan my whole life. Die hard, bad times, good times, 3 Super Bowls. Thank you very much. And lots of AFC championship appearances. 3 Super Bowl wins. We've been to the Super Bowl, I think, maybe 8 or 9 times. I mean, so it's been an amazing fandom being a Denver Bronco fan. I became a Cubs fan living in Chicago, then that happened. And then because I went to Florida State, and that's my alma mater, I'm a Florida State Seminole. Kind of that's what happens to you. I loved the Seminoles before that because Meredith graduated from there, and I always kind of liked them. And then when I went there, then we won a national championship the year that I graduated. I was on the 14-year college plan, so I was kind of an older guy by the time I graduated from college at Florida State, but we won the national championship that year. Then when we moved to Texas, my son and my money went to the University of Texas. So when you invest out of state tuition for an entire year into an institution, then you kind of you have an affinity for it, right? So at any rate, my son graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in religious studies, and which will prepare him well for law. Yeah. So you lived in Linda, you lived in Colorado Springs. I went to a fundamentalist Christian private school, but I didn't live that far away from Coronado High. So that would have been the high school that I would have attended if I had gone to regular school and not to a fundamentalist Baptist school. But I lived on what was then the north side of town. But now there is no north side of town. Basically Colorado Springs, there's just development all the way from Colorado Springs to Denver. It used to be you would leave Colorado Springs on the neighborhood that I lived in pretty much, and you wouldn't hit anything until Monument. And then not again until Castle Rock, right? And so all those are all blended together now. I just drove. I was there not too long ago and drove from Denver to Colorado Springs, and there was not a lot of wide open spaces the way that it used to be when I was a kid. But yeah, so then I became and as far as basketball, so I played basketball in high school. I played football and I played basketball in high school, but basketball was kind of like my jam. I was a much better basketball player. So I always enjoyed basketball. I liked watching it, but I got kind of disillusioned over time with the NBA. And then I rediscovered it like a few years ago and started getting back into it again. I love March Madness, of course, with the NCAA. But I didn't have a team, so I didn't have a basketball team that I really liked. We used to live in Orlando, so I used to kind of go to the Orlando Magic games once in a while and watch Dwight Howard, back in the day. And then, of course, Shaq before that. Shaquille O'Neal played for the Orlando Magic, and then Dwight Howard. And so I kind of liked the Orlando Magic, and I was like, yeah, that's but the problem with the NBA is it's hard to have like an affiliation with a team because the teams change so much. A football team, generally the same guys will hang around for a while. You might lose like one star player here and there. But with basketball, man, you could lose your whole roster like overnight. And so it became really difficult to just have a team that you latched onto. So what Meredith and I decided last year was that we were going to latch onto a player. And we were going to the player was going to be the thing that we went for. And so we would follow the player wherever the player went. And so Kawhi Leonard was the guy that we decided that we liked the best. I think I liked him the most because the guy is expressionless. It doesn't matter what happens, whether he wins or loses, has the game of his life. He just has one expression on his face, and I just love that about that guy. And he's just amazing. So anyway, he played for the San Antonio Spurs, and I've always liked him there, but then he went to the Toronto Raptors, and now he's with the Clippers. So we became Clippers fans because of Kawhi Leonard. So that's kind of our sports affiliation. I just got into NASCAR just recently because of all the brouhaha and stuff, and so I'm kind of excited about that. So I follow Bubba Wallace, kind of just because I don't really have any history with NASCAR, and so he was a guy that I thought was pretty cool, being the only black NASCAR driver, and so at any rate, that's why I got into NASCAR. And so the problem, my wife says the problem that I have is that when I get into a team, I buy so much gear, like I will buy everything. Like I'll buy the jerseys, I'll buy the hats, I buy, I'm always looking for ways to get these things like cheap, you know what I'm saying? So I bought a lot of my jerseys from China. There are all these websites that you can get they're like, they got imperfections on them, somewhere. So they went through the factory and they were rejects or whatever, or who knows, how they ended up in the hands of the people that were selling them. But you buy them, and man, it takes a while, especially now. The deliveries from China are pretty terrible. But at any rate, I used to get all, I got so many jerseys, man, jerseys after jerseys and hats and jerseys for my kids and jerseys for my wife and all this stuff. So at any rate, that's my problem. Oh, and I don't really like hockey. I love hockey. I love going to hockey games because hockey is so much fun to go to the game because it's cold inside. And there's this cool atmosphere, and especially when you can sit on the ice, like you can sit down close to the ice, it's amazing. I used to go to the Florida Panthers games back when I used to work for Best Buy. When I worked for Best Buy, I was a marketing guy for music and videos and media and stuff like that. So the people that were the marketing folks for the Florida Panthers were always trying to get Best Buy to be a sponsor. And so they would give us tickets all the time. And so I went to a lot of games, to hockey games there. When we did minor league hockey games in Tallahassee when we lived there, we've done a whole bunch we've done the gamut of like minor league hockey, but I haven't been able to really pick a team, and I'm not, so I kind of had an affiliation with Chicago, so the Blackhawks have become my hockey team that I follow. So it's not like it's not like I sit around like thinking about sports all the time, but I'm interested in it, and so I follow it and stuff. And so it's at any rate, yeah. Spent a lot of so Randy spent a lot of time at the Olympic Training Center. Yeah, it's a great town, Colorado Springs. Probably my favorite area right now down there. Well, there's lots of cool areas, but one of my favorite areas is Manitou Springs. Manitou Springs has really it's just so cool. It's like if you took a little bit of Austin and like dropped it into the mountains. It's kind of like that. It's kind of cool like that. Very artistic, lots of music, breweries. I mean, it's got a lot of cool stuff. And Denver, I love Denver. There's a lot I love about Denver. I'm glad I live here, though Austin is a much better town than Denver, I think, but Denver is a lot of fun. So anyway, yeah, cool stuff. So now you know my whole sports history. Yep, there you go. So let's talk about some other things. So first of all, I just want to say something to y'all about I had an epiphany yesterday, a couple of epiphanies. One had to do with some comments that I made about somebody who was commenting on one of my Facebook pages. And I felt kind of bad about that afterwards. I was ranting a little bit. I shouldn't have done that. And I should have been a little more easy with that. And so I want to say that I apologize for coming across, negatively. But my friend Ann Johnson actually went and interacted with the young man who was commenting on my post. Now here's the thing. I know that guy. I know the kid, and he and another friend of mine get into fights all the time on Facebook. So they're always arguing on Facebook from opposite points of view, and so he has a pretty he's kind of on the right side of when I say the right side of the spectrum, right, in terms of politics and so forth, and so has a particular point of view. But my friend Ann Johnson actually did a better job of kind of responding to the guy than I did. And so I repent of that. I should have been a lot more kind and easy. I just said nothing, which is probably fine, at least on the comments, but I said stuff to y'all, and I don't want to come across as too much of a curmudgeon. I am a curmudgeon about some stuff, but yeah. So cool. And there's Ladare Wright, or Ladare and Jody that are chiming in from Dillon. They're in Colorado right now, so it's a lot cooler there. And it is a lot cooler probably where you are than where I am right now, because my air conditioning went out on my bottom. I have a 2-story house, and I have 2 air conditioning units, one for the top and one for the bottom. And the one on the bottom went out. And so it is hot in my office, and I'm wearing a jersey. So I'm sweating right now, man. This is not going to cut it today. So I've got to call into the air conditioning folks, and so hopefully, if I take a call in the middle of my broadcast, you will know why. Because I need to get my air fixed, man. I had to close all the doors to the upstairs so that the air that's upstairs is running like constantly. But I closed all the doors of the bedroom so that the air conditioning would pump into the bedrooms, because that's the only way we could stay cool last night. But thankfully, that air conditioning unit is working. Meanwhile, on my dad's side of the house, it's like, it's nice and cool. So there we go. All right. Let me think. Oh, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I was talking about, I wanted to say a little bit about the Austin. So Austin ISD, which is our school district here in my neck of the woods, they announced yesterday that school would be virtual only, online only for the first 3 weeks of school, which I was glad they made a decision, albeit I think it feels like a little bit of a punt to me. It feels like they punted just a tad. But at any rate, it does buy some time, and it gives teachers a chance to be able to at least know that the first 3 weeks they're going to be virtual. I agree with that decision. I don't, as a parent, it is not great. I just got to say, and it's not ideal for our kids. I mean, I get the arguments for that, right? I agree with the decision, though, because I feel like that there's too much that we don't know yet, and it buys us more time to be able to evaluate and to figure things out. We are like, I don't know. I mean, however many weeks away. I mean, right now it's like a month, right? It's like a month away from when school would be starting. And so we don't have a whole lot of time to sit around and wait for some. So we need to make sure we make a decision about that. But here's the argument that doesn't float for me is that, the kids will be fine, right? Because they're not adversely affected by the virus. If they get it, it's not a big deal. But the problem is, they're teachers. It's not like the kids are going to school and they're being taught by their peers. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's just like a whole bunch of, it's like Lord of the Flies, right? I mean, there are adults there, and there are lots of teachers that perhaps might be in the vulnerable category, including my neighbor, who is the principal of Cunningham Elementary, and she's a friend of ours, and she has a compromised immune system, and I mean, so the fact of the matter is that it's a horribly hard decision. It was the right thing to do, I think, but I also realize there is so much that goes into a decision like that, and I you know what, leading a church through this has been one of the most challenging and difficult and trying and also incredible in some ways seasons of my life. Like, this has been the most difficult season of my life as a pastor, is doing church this way, because I was trained to do church a different way. Like, everything I've ever learned has been about doing church a particular way, and now we're doing it differently. Now, I've appreciated the comments that people have made. It seems like, you had a plan. It seems like, we pivoted with all these things, because, that does speak, that does speak to the fact that, we're doing the best that we can and doing a good job, I think, of really trying to move forward. So, at any rate, it is hard to make decisions. It is tough to have to make tough calls and to try to figure out how to plan when you can't really plan, right? I mean, I'm used to being able to look ahead, and that's kind of been one of my gifts, is being able to look ahead at what's coming down the road and be able to anticipate that and be able to figure out like how to meet those challenges and how to be ready for those kinds of things. I never saw this coming. Nobody did, right? And it's hard to plan down the road because we don't know what that looks like. And so basically, it's like I'm planning for next week. That's kind of what we're dealing with. So I get how hard it's a horribly hard decision. So I feel for the people having to make these decisions all over the country. I really do. But we have to make sure that we're taking care of everybody and that we're taking care of our kids, and doing the best that we can for them. Would it be better for our kids to be in person at school? Yes. Let's just say that, right? Because it feels like the arguments that people are making are like, well, you don't want kids to go to school because you want chaos, right? Or the other argument is, well, you just don't care about the kids. You just want everything to go back to normal. Well, I think that everybody would agree it would be better for the kids to be in school and to be there. And there's a lot of things that go into that. There are kids that rely on school for food, for support, for mental health, for all kinds of things, right? There's lots of families that rely on the school for those things. So it's a hard decision to make, but it's the right decision to not go back and to do it online. And as Andrea is saying, yeah, if you fall into two high risk categories, you go in there, no matter how many precautions that you take, that's a tough place to be, in a classroom with a bunch of kids and all that stuff, and they could be asymptomatic, and there's just too much what if. So it's the right thing to do. So these are all tough things, guys, and so we need to be mindful of the folks that are making these decisions, how hard they are, and how many things that they have to factor into them, and to give them some grace once in a while. Unless they are absolutely just doing the dumbest things, it's no demand, which we read about that all the time too. Okay, so let me get to my trivia. Man, I am way over today. So let me get to my trivia. Okay, so today, since I'm wearing Cubs uniform, and I'll be wearing one tomorrow too. But we'll do a little bit of baseball trivia. So the movie that I'm thinking of right now was. Let me see. I got to look at the date on that. Let's see. Okay, the movie that I'm thinking about is from 1990, and it is a baseball movie that's probably one of the most improbable and weird baseball movies. It's completely outside of the realm of possibility. That what happens in this movie would actually happen. But it's a movie that was from 1993, and it had in its cast, I'll give you one person that was in the movie. Gary Busey. Gary Busey was in this movie. And it was directed by Daniel Stern, who you'll remember Daniel Stern. He was one of the two wet bandits from Home Alone. So not Joe Pesci, but he was the other guy. So Daniel Stern directed this. So you guys are guessing all of the baseball movies. Field of Dreams. It is not Field of Dreams, although that might be in our arsenal at some point. Neil actually got it. Okay, Neil got it because he's a Cubs fan, and yeah. So it is Rookie of the Year. Rookie of the Year. So this kid in the movie has a freak accident. He breaks his arm, and his tendons are a little too tight. And when his arm is healed, and so he is able to throw the baseball like 100 miles an hour. Yep, Daniel Stern is in City Slickers as well. Yep, that's absolutely true. Yeah, so the kid is able to throw the baseball like 100 miles an hour, and he gets picked up as a free agent by the Cubs to go and pitch for the Cubs. And Gary Busey plays the manager. It also has, I think, Dan Hedaya, who was the father in Clueless, and has been in a ton of movies. So anyway, yeah. All right. So, rookie of the year. Good job, Neil. All right. So, guys, make sure that you're in attendance tonight. We are going to be having our second installment of our conversations about racial injustice. And we're going to be having that tonight at 7 p.m. And we'll be talking about Langston Hughes' Let America Be America Again. Then tomorrow night is movie trivia night. And there will be a prize. So the grand prize is going to be for Little Dottie's. It'll be a gift certificate for Little Dottie's hamburgers. And so we'll have movie trivia tomorrow at 7 p.m. This Sunday, we'll be having worship at 9:30 a.m. and I'll be preaching, and there will be other assorted fun things going on. And so looking forward to that. And yeah, so that's all the news that's fit to print. Let me get to my daily Devo today before we completely run out of time. But this one I entitled Head versus Heart. I know I've mentioned this here before, but when I was a teenager, I was on the Bible quiz team on my church for my youth group. And I was also on the Bible quiz team for the Christian school that I attended. This was in two different Christian schools. The one that I attended in Colorado, we won national championships. I mean, it was a big deal to be on that quiz team. And as an eighth grader, I made it on the high school team. I wasn't a starter because I was in eighth grade. They just wouldn't allow it, right? But I got in quite a bit, and so I was on the Bible quiz team. We won national championships, and of course, our church Bible quiz team won quite a few of the championships, like in the church leagues. I know this is awful, isn't it? It sounds like pretty terrible because it's fundamentalist Baptist stuff, so that's what we did. But the school that I went to in high school, when I got there, I was on the Bible quiz team for that school, and we won the state championship. And then we went on to nationals, but we got trounced by the school that I used to go to in Colorado. So they killed us that year. So not to brag, but I was kind of good. That was really good. In fact, we memorized entire chapters of the Bible in preparation for these quizzes, which meant that I was memorizing at least 5 chapters from the Bible a year, at least 5 a year. And this went on for several years. So the fundamentalist Christian communities that we were a part of when I was growing up valued the memorization of Scripture. You were expected to have Bible knowledge, to be able to quote Bible verses at the drop of a hat. And on the other hand, I spent almost zero time really trying to study and understand what we were memorizing, apart from a very shallow, literalistic, and uncritical interpretation. So when I was a young teenager, I received a lot of affirmation for my head knowledge of the Bible and of what it meant to me at the time to be a Christian. But as I got older, things changed. Because what I longed for was an experience of God's presence, but I had never learned how to feel it. And I so wanted to feel a connection to the divine. Instead, I settled for rote memorization and a spate of unsatisfying answers to all of my hard and troubling questions. So finally, I walked away from all of it, and it was years before I found my way back. It took me years to realize that there were other, more life-giving ways to be Christian, ways that didn't value head knowledge above divine experience and Christ-centered feelings and spirit-induced revelation. It is this kind of Christian space that calls to me, that inspires me and keeps me stumbling after Jesus. I read this poem by the 13th century poet Rumi the other day, and I wrote it down to share. I think it speaks to it beautifully.